And I think that's a key point when you say most spirituality is about really spiritual bypassing, using these tools, techniques, philosophies to bypass the personality, the problematic personality with its suffering and challenges and all of that. But in your mind, is there a kernel of spirituality or truth in there that does open up a human being to life more profoundly? And you know, I know you've spoken about it in your books to a large extent. I do as well in my books. And from my perspective, that is truly what spirituality is supposed to be about, not bypassing any of the suffering. In fact, it's not about suffering at all, but really getting down to that kernel of truth that lies at the heart of everyone's experience. And I feel that psychotherapy, in a way, misses that because it's so hyper-focused on personality. And then spirituality, or the culture of it, as you pointed out, bypasses the personality and tries to make it all about this experience of non-personality, non-being, whatever you want to call it, right? And a no-doer experience. And there seems to be a gap on both sides. There seems to be some vital link missing between the two fields. And it's always something that I myself in my work, I'm trying to get, is a gap I'm trying to bridge. And I feel you are as well when you write. So I wonder if you could speak a bit more to that.
Okay. Well, is there a kernel of truth in spirituality? Sure, but of course, it's buried under a tremendous amount of dogma, and also has become a commercial enterprise for a lot of people, which is not a really good resting place for truth, because a lot of truths are hard to hear. And if I speak them, I may alienate a lot of my followers who have been paying me. They aren't paying me, but I'm speaking in general. So that's a tricky question. When you asked me to do this podcast, I hadn't seen one of your podcasts, so I watched the one that you had with Paul Hederman. And he's an honest person without a big axe to grind. I enjoyed hearing what he had to say. But on the other hand, he talks about satsang and truth a lot and claims that he has a way of leading someone to that truth. And that's an idea that I totally reject. I don't believe in any capital T truth that human beings have access to. We're living in a material world, and there's no denying that without becoming deluded. And so one of the things that I push back against is the idea that there are teachers who can lead you to truth. I don't believe that. That said, is there a kernel of interest, let's say, not truth, but is there something interesting in spirituality as a field? Well, of course, because we have spiritual needs as people. We need love, we need compassion. We need to understand our position, not just as animals in a material world, although that's the basis for what we are, but the other needs that we have for meaning and love and compassion. And there are ways in spiritual practice. Well, practice is not the right word. There's an understanding that one can come to about who and what I am that won't be true because it's personal. There's not one overarching truth about what is a human being, after all. A scientist will see it from one point of view and a priest from another entirely. So I would not say there's truth, but we can come to an understanding of our situation, our human situation. And I think the best parts of spirituality have done that. I think that Zen Buddhism, for example, is a very interesting field, worth reading about, worth finding out about. Advaita Vedanta, not so much. I'm a pretty harsh critic of that particular end of it. But that's a long answer. I'm sorry I've carried on so long. But to answer your question, sure, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.